Good day, liberators and fellow citizens. On Sunday morning, January the 2nd, we all woke up seeing that our parliament is on fire. It wasn't anything new because we always knew that parliament was on fire, figuratively speaking, obviously, for a very long time. And we just saw all the corruption and the failures to act and blah, 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 blah. And very interestingly, very quickly, they came out and said that a guy by the name of Zandile Mafe was the culprit of and the suspected arsonist. He's the one who infiltrated Parliament and also spent a lot of time there for a long time, and he made himself comfortable apparently. And yeah, he's the one. He's the arsonist, emphasize. However, Parliament is a national key point in terms and regulated in terms of the National Key Points Act of 1980. This act was established and created by the old apartheid government in the eye of the war. And they need to have taken special care of all national key points, and they've introduced the National Key Points Act, but it was last updated in 1985. Our new government never attended to it, and they basically said, well, we're not in a war, so why do we need to look at that? But it was never repealed or other measures taken. So they just carried on and ignoring the National Key Points Act. Also, the regulations passed in terms of that very act have never been updated since 1985. So there was a total neglect to act by the new government to change the measures and to look after the security of our national key points. And in terms of that very act, Regulation 16.2, a security guard chosen to protect a national key point, that security guard is handpicked. He needs to know stuff that the normal security guard does not know. He is effectively an agent, and he needs to adhere to strict security measures. Part of his training or her training is fire prevention and firefighting measures. They are, for Parliament, the security guards stationed at Parliament is the fire brigade. They are highly trained. They are supposed to know what to do in case of a fire breaking out. And we are not even supposed to know that a fire broke out in Parliament, for example. They would have attained it and they would have dealt with it. And obviously under certain circumstances, they would have then asked the city's fire brigade to intervene. So the other thing that they should know is the law. They need to know the National Key Points Act, the regulations, the Internal Security Act of 1982, and also Protection of Information Act of 1982. The Internal Security Act of 1982 has subsequently been repealed and replaced by the Protection of Constitutional Democracy Against Terrorism and the Related Activities Act of 2004. So when you move over to that act, you go into the territory of terrorism. Because if something happens, if there is an incident, it's actually considered to be terrorism against the state, because it affects the national security of our country. In terms of the regulations, Annexure A to the regulations, security guard must also sign a declaration saying in that declaration that he will keep his mouth shut. He will adhere to the Internal Security Act and also to the Protection of Information Act, And he knows that he may not, by law, tell anything about the security at a national key point. It's a criminal offense to, in fact, divulge that information to anyone. And here I go to section 10.2 of the National Key Points Act, where it specifically stated that any person who, without the necessary authorization, divulge any security measures or about an incident that occurred at the national key points, they have committed an offense, and they can be sent to imprisonment or of something like 3 years, and also a fine of 10,000 rand. That 10,000 rand, in fact, is much more under a special act that was promulgated a couple of years back to amend fines as the time goes by. But in any event, Regulation 19.1 also says that you may not publish this or tell anyone verbally that such an incident occurred, or anything about the security of the national key point. Now, I will go into what the media did and what they said. According to me, the media have committed an offense. They were not allowed to give any of these information that they've received to anyone without the necessary authorization. They were only supposed to say that an incident occurred, nothing about how security operated, whether they were there over weekend or public holidays or what the case may be. They were not allowed by law. That is infringing in our own security of the company, of the country. We obviously, as people and citizens, need to know what our government is doing and not doing. But here we are talking about most probably the most important national key point, Parliament. That is where our representatives, which we apparently democratically chosen, are settled. And they need to be protected. They've got very, very interesting information and data that they are keeping. And so it needs to be protected. Who's responsible for the protection of Parliament? In terms of the National Key Points Act, the owner together with government were supposed to be responsible. For all practical purposes, the state is the owner of the land. I will also show you something interesting about the ownership a bit later at the end. But for now, it's the state and anyone who's involved in the management of this piece of land. Now, who's the responsible minister? We've seen that Patricia de Lille has been pushed to the front as the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure, to say that yes, she's the one who must give answers. But in terms of the National Key Points Act, it's actually the Minister of Defence, who is currently Thandi Modise, who is supposed to look after the security of Parliament. So, and that has never changed, as far as I could establish. There have never been a proclamation to state otherwise. So the Minister of Defence has always been tasked, in terms of the Act itself, to be the responsible minister. But this obviously falls also under national security. And our state security agency is currently being handled by none other than Cyril Ramaphosa, our president himself. Since August 2021, the Ministry of Intelligence has been deleted or have been done away with, and now is settled directly in the presidency and handled by a minister. The minister who will be tasked with overseeing state security will be a new minister in the presidency, Mondli Gugumbele. I've seen him before, but he's not a very prominent ANC member, but he has been there for a couple of years. But he's a new minister. A new minister in the presidency is now handling state security. A new minister. You would also recognize Mondli to be the one without the mask standing next to our president. Also without the mask when they appeared on television to talk about the fire. Interesting. What do they know about COVID-19 where they don't have to wear any mask? But unfortunately, they are above the law and we can't do anything about that, as we are well aware. And then Ramaphosa went a step further and he appointed old Cedric Mufamadi to be his personal security advisor. He's very much concerned in August last year about state security, but only 4 months later, Parliament is on fire. And according to the media, there were no security officers, blah, 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 blah. And a so-called homeless person jumped over the fence and he spent a lot of time inside Parliament. Yeah, I know a rat when I smell it. But further, in terms of the national report of 2018 and 2019, that's the most recent national report that I could obtain. In the report, it was said that the Minister of Police is responsible for the National Key Points Act. Government does not know who is supposed to look after the security of our national key points. This is frightening. They don't know that the Minister of Defence is supposed to be. They've blamed Patricia de Lille. She was the Minister of Public Works and she's getting the blame of everything. But our friend, the hatted Becky Cele, is supposed to run, or is supposed to be the one responsible. He never appeared on television. He was never nearby. The National Commissioner never appeared on television at that stage that I'm aware of. So it's as if, no, we're also not responsible for this. But the Protection and Security Services, and this is coming out of their own document, the national report. It says that static protection include the provisioning of protection to the 10 parliaments, the National Assembly and the 9 provincial legislatures. There you have it. According to government, it's actually Becky Cele who was supposed to look after the security of this premises, but he was nowhere to be found. And then we also go to the presidential protection, also the police that's supposed to look after that. Yeah, that's very much interesting. Now we come to the reports, the media reports. They say in the Daily Maverick on the 2nd of January, they said that no Parliamentary Protection Services staff was on duty. How do they know that? Who gave them the authority to tell that to the broader public? It's a criminal offence to have stated that, but, well, Daily Maverick will have an excuse to say that it's in the interest of the public, that everyone knew about or know about what was going on, but they've divulged confidential information about a national key point which they were not supposed to do. Then further, also in the Daily Maverick, on the 5th of January, it was stated that no one was watching CCTV footage as alleged arsonist Zandile Mafe spent 4 hours in Parliament on Sunday, according to Public Works Minister Patricia de Lille. Well, I've already said that Patricia de Lille is not responsible for the national key point. Definitely not for the security of it. Maybe the maintenance and the management of it, but when it came to the security as such, it had to be actually transferred to the Minister of Defense or to the Minister of Police, or obviously to the President himself. None of them have done their work. Then this is the part which is very important. You will not find this in any newspaper at present. This has not been touched. But I know personally about this, and I've got many information that I can share to the right people at the right time. However, the DA, on the 4th of January, the DA came out and DA accuses Public Works Minister de Lille of not safeguarding Parliament. DA, it's not de Lille who was responsible for the safeguarding of Parliament. You, as a political party, as the opposition party, should be well aware of it. And when I read this, I immediately confirmed my suspicion. When the DA in 2016, as part of their local election campaign, when they took over Johannesburg and Cape Town specifically, and I'm not aware whether this also took place in other cities, but it's possible. But I'm personally have knowledge about Johannesburg and Cape Town. What they did was, in 2016, when they took over, they've established a so-called anti-corruption unit in both Johannesburg and Cape Town. Now, it was later called the Internal Forensic Investigation Unit of Johannesburg and also in Cape Town. But in Johannesburg, the dismissed erstwhile Gauteng Hawks Major General Shadrach Sibia was appointed as the head of this unit, directly reporting to the then executive mayor Herman Mashaba, who was there for the DA at that point. So he directly reported to Herman Mashaba. Now, how I got to deal with this unit was I was very much involved in so-called immovable property hijackings that went viral in Johannesburg above other cities. And this investigating unit was directly also responsible to have investigated that. It was not the task of the local government, but they elected that they need to stick their noses into the affairs of the police. And knowing that, at that point, Herman Mashaba received communication from my side where I gave him names of people in the municipality who are giving support to these property hijackers. I gave him a lot of information, and Herman Mashaba decided that it's not important enough to have that information, and he totally discarded it and never followed up. I had an extensive battle and with this internal investigation unit. They were rogue. What they did was they went into properties. They attended to illegal evictions without court orders. They were totally rogue. And very importantly, that in Cape Town, the same thing happened with this unit, to such extent that it irritated the executive mayor, who was Patricia de Lille at that stage for the DA. She claimed that they spied on her at some stages, and she closed that unit down because it was a rogue unit. That ended up in her being disciplined, and she left the DA later to form the Good Party, and now she is the Minister of Public Works. So it's not surprised that suddenly out of the blue the DA comes and start accusing De Lille of not doing a job. In Johannesburg, I had extensive dealings with this unit, and yes, as I've said, that they were extremely rogue. And at that stage, in Cape Town, there was a guy by the name of J.P. Smith, the member of the mayoral committee responsible for safety and security, who this unit specifically reported to. And yes, this is actually what I wanted to say, and I lost my words, sorry for that. In 2016, just before the local elections, because of my involvement with these property hijackings of houses and buildings in Johannesburg, I had extensive meetings with high-level people, and above others, I was called to this one meeting one day of the DA, and they had a lot of councillors there, and also members of the provincial government. And I arrived a bit early, and I was sitting in this meeting, and they were discussing to try and reach out to mercenaries, rental soldiers of South Africa who were unable to return to South Africa because from where they are currently being stationed as rental soldiers, mercenaries, our laws don't allow that, and it's a criminal offense, and they would have then be arrested if they returned back to South Africa. So they were planning how they going to reach out to them, and for what purpose. Many of these guys were highly trained in security, and very strange things happened in Johannesburg as well. Suddenly xenophobic attacks erupted, and there was a very prominent guy by the name of Jonathan Constable who was eventually arrested, and Herman Mashaba took it upon himself to say that Jonathan Constable was a key-pin property hijacker. Jonathan Constable sat in jail for a very long time. He was eventually, all charges were dropped after a year or what that he spent in jail, and nothing happened. Jonathan was never the key pin, but Herman Mashaba was dead sure that he was a key pin property hijacker. So there strange things happened, and I also communicated personally with Jonathan Constable, who also had issues with the rogue unit, according to him. But in any case, J.P. Smith is the one who appeared on television on behalf of the city of Cape Town, telling what happened with the fire all the time. So, and he was the one responsible for that rogue unit that Patricia de Lille closed down in Cape Town. Very strange that he was on the scene. I will come to that just now. And the DA was very prominent in this whole Parliament fire all over the television. At one stage we can also see none other than Premier Alan Wind in the background of together with the president, and Patricia de Lille also used to be someone from the DA, and we know that Cyril Ramaphosa, the chances that he's very well aligned with the DA as well is very, very good. Now, at one stage, now we come to the actual problem. JP Smith reported at one stage that there were 75 firemen. I would like to play you a clip, a short clip, where he tells us about the emergency call that was received.
JP, you've been here since the early hours of, is it Sunday morning? And you've got an idea of what's been happening. Just tell us what you know so far.
So we started obviously with having to ramp up staff very significantly. The first fire team got the call at just after 12 minutes past 6 from Roland Street, just up the road. They were here at 18 minutes past 6. Did an assessment that more staff was going to be required. 5 more fire stations were mobilized as far as Milnerton, who all assisted. Yesterday at the height of it we had 70 firefighters on scene. Fire maybe could have helped a bit more if they'd been alerted earlier. It does look like the fire detection system did not activate rapidly. We were here more than 20 minutes on site before that system activated the first time. So the firefighters were already starting to put the fire out when the system activated. So there's definitely...
So in this clip of JP Smith, the Safety and Security member of Mayoral Committee, Cape Town, he indicated exactly what happened, at what time, precisely the time when the firemen came in, and he also stipulated that it took about 20 minutes for them, for the alarm, the fire alarm, to go off. Very precisely calculated, and this is what the media also said about the person who actually made the phone call. Listen to this.
Obviously, the security staff, people guarding Parliament, would have been on the premises and they would have made that call. Although I did speak to a security officer, private security officer in Government Avenue, who said that he was the one who called the fire and rescue services. He also then said to me that it took about 30 minutes for Parliament's fire alarm to kick in.
The hero of this whole incident, is a security guard of Parliament. I've just said earlier that a security guard may not divulge any information about what is going on security-wise or in terms of an incident. So this security guard, although he was the hero, he was the one who phoned the fire brigade. His name was never mentioned, rightfully, okay, but he started blabbering out, and he also indicated that it took about half an hour for the alarm. He was very precise as well, that it took half an hour for the alarm to go off. So it does correlate with what JP Smith said, that it took 6 minutes to respond, and then 20 minutes thereafter the alarm went off. So about 30 minutes would be a very fair time for the security guard to say the security or the alarm went off. This guy, this security guard, divulged privileged security related information to the media, and the media conveniently passed it over to the entire, not only South Africa, but the entire world. And there's no indication that this guy was ever charged with a crime. it's as if this security intrusion never happened. It even went as far as that the Cape Town Metro Emergency Medical Services, they had a drone flying over this entire national key point, taking photographs, and it's apparently for fighting the fire. But remember that people, it's not necessary. If the security guards were on duty, and we are made to believe that they were not, but if they were on duty, it was the responsibility of the guards to have fought the fire. No need for Cape Town to interfere. So, very interesting that the Good Party now suddenly came out. The Good Party, Patricia de Lille, in Cape Town on the 5th of January came out to say that Good Party calls on Cele to investigate City of Cape Town's rogue police structure. Now, this is where I'm coming in. JP Smith is the head of that unit. The whole unit reports directly to him. He was constantly on site. And the conclusion that I would like to make, and this is something totally new. Imagine this. A call is made by a security guard asking the intervention of the fire brigade, him knowing that the firefighting should be settled with the guards. So somehow there had to have been an emergency call to the guards. But what happened was that this fire engine came to the gates, which was apparently manned by the police at that point. They entered the building, and one after the other came, and at one stage there were 75 on site. And then while they were there, and remember that when we watched this on television, we never saw the fire. We were made to believe that there was a fire inside of Parliament, and we did not want to question it, because why would a fire brigade be there? But it was also said that they were on the scene for 20 minutes until the fire broke out, or the alarm broke out. Yes, that's what I wanted to say. That is there a possibility that these firemen that came on site were not fire brigade men, firefighters? Could it have been orchestrated by none other than the DA to get this rogue unit, because of JP managing them, to go inside Parliament and go on a find, retrieve and destroy mission? It's a possibility, people. This was never touched by media. So I'm saying that, knowing the background of this rogue unit, who even at stages where the DA was talking to consider joining forces with mercenaries for the one or other reason, could it have been orchestrated by the DA to enter Parliament and have free access to the entire Parliament building because there was a fire? And then, could it be possible that these people have started the fire and that there was no fire because the guard who apparently reported the fire was never there? Could it have been a project between this rogue unit of the DA in Cape Town and the media? These are possibilities. I'm not saying that it did happen, But it was never questioned. It was never brought to us by the media itself. Could this have been a well-orchestrated anti-intelligence operation by none other than the DA? Hence the reason why the good party suddenly popped up and said that Cele must investigate this rogue unit. Does Patricia de Lille maybe know something that we don't know? These are questions, and I'm surely going to go into this matter and follow this. Why would they have done that? What was their modus operandi? Well, people, we are talking about having access to any and all political parties, their chambers, their offices, secret information possibly held by the state. These things need to be investigated, but very conveniently, this one guy, this so-called homeless guy, jumped the fence, and he's now allegedly an arsonist. But it was a total violation of our country's security, an act of terrorism was established by what happened there. From the firefighters who attended to the call, and also to the media and each and every one of the people who had anything to say about this incident. To close off, I've indicated this in the beginning, the ownership. Well, many people don't know this, but it's the 250th anniversary of Freemasonry, or the so-called CABLZAJJ Lodge of the Freemasons in South Africa. So 2022 is a very important year for the Freemasons. Now, for those of you who don't know this, that for this lodge, Freemason Lodge, is standing on the premises of the Parliament land, and has been there since before the Parliament. So rumor has it that the Freemasons, in fact, sold the land to government to build Parliament on for a mere £1 at that stage. And that rumor has it that when Parliament doesn't want to have the property anymore, and they want to, for example, move house to Gauteng, they need to sell the land back to the Freemasons for £1 as well. Now, what is interesting about this is that Freemasonry is a secret boys club. A secret. They are operating in secrecy. They might say otherwise, but we all know that we don't know how they operate. You need to be invited to be a member of them. And they are this secret organization is on the premises of Parliament's land. A secret organization shares the land of Parliament. Now, I've heard this, that because of the fact that in history, many members of Parliament were Freemasons. They were so interconnected that there's apparently a corridor underneath the ground, a tunnel, directly from Parliament into this Freemason house, CABLZAJJ Lodge. Because it was very easy, for Parliament was almost indistinguishable from the Freemasons at a point, and it was very easy for them to just simply walk the corridor underneath the ground directly to a meeting of the Parliament was sitting. They had access all the time to this property. There's a lot of security information that we still need to attain. You will see from this satellite picture that the green arrow shows where Parliament buildings are, and then the yellow triangle square is what we saw on television all the time. That was where the entrance was for the firemen, and then the red arrow shows where this lodge is situated on the Parliament grounds. Yes, I'm going to leave it there. Leave this open for imagination. Go and do your studies. And thank you very much for your support. Really appreciate it. Until the next time, God bless.